he's a really fun player to watch, and his highlight reel is, I think, as good as some of the best in college football right now at the running back position. Welcome into the draft profile for Bhayshul Tuten, running back out of Virginia Tech. And look, it is almost a cliche at this point to call the running back class a loaded class, but this running back out of Virginia Tech is another really solid running back in an already loaded class. All right, and we're going to talk about him today. I'm super excited because this is a guy, he transfers from NCAT. I don't know, never heard of him, but transfers from a small school to Virginia Tech, has 2 seasons at Virginia Tech, put up some really solid numbers, and in his senior season really showed up. And I mean, you compare him, just listen to some of these stats here. Among running backs with a minimum 100 attempts, he is 17th in total yards after contact, 10th in yards after contact per attempt, 9th in elusive rating, 14th in missed tackles force, 12th in breakaway percentage, 9th in breakaway yards, 24th in explosive runs, which is 10 yards or more, and to cap it all off, a 36.3% broken tackle rate for his career. So yeah, I wanted to give you that context. I did also want to say, look, I am very much more film over analytics as far as like the way I view the draft process, but I do like to use the analytics. I do believe in having a full encompassing view of it, and there are certainly things that go into my grades. It's not just film review, but film review is my main thing. With that said, I do just want to keep adding a couple graphs. These are a couple things I found online. So right here, run game physicality. Then this is just counts full schools, but we kind of know what we're talking about here. Virginia Tech and Boise State at the forefront. Yeah, a lot of that is Tuten in the way he runs, right? So I just wanted to give that shout out real quick. And then this chart here that kind of maps out yards after contact per carry versus yards per route run per carry. I found this to be super interesting as well. And I think he's in really good company, right? You see Tuten right here in that top right quadrant, which is obviously where you want to be. Looking at some of the guys that were drafted into the NFL last year, Tyrone Tracy, really good company. Bucky Irving, another guy where I'm like, that's feels like the best case scenario for him. So just wanted to throw that out there before we get into the skills charts. Let's go ahead and get into that right now. All right, as we look at it here, I do feel like we got to kind of start off with the first thing that really I look at and I say, okay, well, that's a question mark for sure. And that is vision at 4.3. And look, I think that for me, that is a negative grade. That is 4.5 is kind of my baseline average for what I want to see out of college prospects. Anything lower is considered a below average grade for me. It's one of those things where I just had a couple times on my notes where like poor decision on this run lane, would have liked him to cut it back. Like things like that where it's like kind of nitty gritty, kind of in the weeds a little bit, but it was definitely something that I noticed enough to where I had to put it on there, and I couldn't give him a positive grade for vision. I will say this is a zone run scheme running back. I think a lot of these issues can easily be coached out of him. It's not something I'm super worried about. Obviously, vision is a very important thing when you talk about the running back position, but as far as his run style and the way he plays and the way he played at Virginia Tech, the way I think it's going to transition to the NFL, I think it's not. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I don't think we're going to have a situation where he's just running into his offensive line every play or anything like that. I didn't see it that bad. And while it is a negative grade, we're not talking about something as like a terrible grade that I just don't think he can get away from. 4.3 for me is basically saying, hey, this could be an issue, but it might be okay, or he can get better, right? But moving on here, just to kind of get a bigger picture of who this guy is, I think agility, contact balance, and power are all kind of in the same conversation as far as the player that he is. Agility at a 4.8, that's a positive grade, but not very great. Like, he has some wiggle. He can make you miss in the open field. He's pretty good in the open field, I would say. At 5.8, that's a good grade for me as well. But I don't think lateral quickness, jump cuts, like that's just not his game. That's not who he is. Definitely more meat and potatoes, get downhill, use your speed, your explosiveness, your pretty solid burst and power, and just run, right? Like, so that's the style of guy he is. That's always the type of guys that I gravitate towards, the type of guys that I usually tend to like a little bit more down the draft process. So obviously we're sitting here and I'm very high on this dude. And as we go along here, I'm not going to dive into every single skill on the skill chart, but I do want to touch on everything a little bit, especially the things that jump out to me. Patience is another grade, very, very good grade at 6.3. I was incredibly, I won't say incredibly, but I was consistently impressed with the way he kind of layered his speeds, and that's just the way I like to say it. I don't know if anybody else would call it this way, but I think anybody who watches him, you can kind of see him kind of gear up and gear down as he's kind of, you know, turning the corner. He really sets up his blocks in that way, especially on some of those like outside zone runs that he did at Virginia Tech. And look, Virginia Tech's run scheme isn't super varied. Like, there was only a handful of ways that he ran the ball in the games that I watched anyway, but I do think it translates pretty well to the NFL. That outside zone run, he was a master at it. He did a really good job. He has the speed to get to the corner. He has the speed to explode upfield. I think all the things you want to see from that style of running back, he has it. Moving on to the skill chart here, breaks a ton of tackles. We know that. He's really good in the open field, runs with good bursts. Last thing I really want to focus on is his pass catching at a 5.6, another positive grade. He had 0 drops. 0 drops in the 2024 season. That pretty much sums up the main points that I had about his game and what I definitely wanted to bring you for this video. At the end of the day, man, I am obviously rooting for this dude. I think I kind of said it at the top, just his story from college, transferring to Virginia Tech from a small school. Like, all of that's just really cool to me. I'm always going to have a soft spot for guys like that, at least for me. Like, I'm just always a big fan of guys that beat the odds in that way. And then just looking at him as a player, taking all that stuff away, he's my guy. He runs the way I like to see a running back run. He's fun to watch. Really, really good player that I do think has a chance to end up in the right spot and really be a difference maker. Let me know in the comments what you expect from him. Is he that guy? Is he that dude? I think he is. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe. Let me know who you'd like me to do a video on next. It really helps out the algorithm. All those things means a lot to me as well. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.